Jake Thompson was about to become a billionaire. The merger contract was waiting on his desk, the champagne was chilling in his penthouse office, and the biggest business deal of his career was just 30 minutes away. But as he stepped outside his gleaming 40-story building, rushing toward his Bentley, something made him freeze in place. A homeless woman sat against the concrete wall, clutching an old photograph. She wasn't begging for money. She wasn't asking for help. She was staring directly at him with eyes that seemed to know all his secrets. When she whispered his name, Jake's blood turned to ice. When she showed him the photograph of 2 children he hadn't seen in 30 years, his briefcase crashed to the pavement. And when she told him who was waiting upstairs in that conference room, ready to shake his hand and sign those billion-dollar contracts, Jake realized his entire empire was built on a lie. The man he was about to make his business partner wasn't just another wealthy entrepreneur. He was the monster from Jake's childhood, the man who had terrorized him so completely that Jake had blocked out most of his memories. And he had been planning this moment for 30 years. In the next hour, Jake would have to choose between his fortune and his soul, between the safety of his penthouse and the dangerous truth that this homeless woman carried in her pocket. Because some debts can never be paid with money. Some betrayals echo across decades. And some monsters never stop hunting the children who escape their grasp. The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Thompson Industries as Jake Thompson adjusted his Italian silk tie for the 3rd time in 5 minutes. His reflection stared back at him from the polished marble floor of his penthouse office. 42 years old, worth $800 million, and about to close the biggest deal of his career. The merger with Morgan Enterprises would push his net worth past the billion-dollar mark. Everything he had worked for since he was 12 years old was about to pay off. Jake's assistant knocked and entered without waiting for permission. "Mr. Thompson, the Morgan Enterprises team is here. They're setting up in conference room A. Tell them I'll be there in 10 minutes, Jake replied, straightening his platinum cufflinks. "And make sure the contracts are ready for signature." The assistant nodded and left. Jake walked to his window, looking down at the bustling streets of downtown Seattle 40 floors below. People moved like ants, rushing to their mundane jobs, worrying about their mortgages and grocery bills. He had risen above all of that. He had escaped the life that was supposed to trap him forever. Jake Thompson hadn't always lived in penthouses and driven Ferraris. 30 years ago, he was just another forgotten kid in the foster care system, bouncing between homes that ranged from indifferent to nightmare. But that was ancient history now. He had built an empire from nothing, and today he would cement his legacy as one of the most successful tech entrepreneurs in American history. His phone buzzed. A text from his lawyer. "Morgan's legal team is aggressive, but we're ready. This deal will make you unstoppable." Jake smiled. Unstoppable. He liked the sound of that. He grabbed his briefcase and headed toward the elevator. The merger with Morgan Enterprises wasn't just about money. Tyler Morgan was 65 years old, a legendary businessman who had built his fortune in real estate and technology. Partnering with him would give Jake access to international markets he could never penetrate alone. More importantly, it would give him the respect he craved from the business world's old guard. The elevator descended smoothly toward the ground floor. Jake checked his watch. 2:47 p.m. The meeting was scheduled for 3 p.m. sharp. Tyler Morgan was notorious for his punctuality, and Jake had no intention of keeping him waiting. The elevator doors opened to reveal the gleaming lobby of Thompson Industries. The receptionist smiled at him. "Good luck with your meeting, Mr. Thompson." Jake nodded but didn't respond. He was already mentally rehearsing his opening statements, visualizing the moment when he and Tyler would shake hands and sign the contracts that would change everything. He pushed through the revolving glass doors and stepped onto the sidewalk. The rain had stopped, but the air still carried the scent of wet pavement and car exhaust. His driver was waiting by the black Bentley, ready to take him to the restaurant where the preliminary discussions would happen before they returned to sign the final papers. That's when he saw her. At first, she was just another homeless person among the dozens who populated downtown Seattle. She sat on a piece of cardboard near the building's entrance, her back against the cold concrete wall. Her clothes were dirty and torn, her hair matted and unwashed. She looked like she hadn't eaten a proper meal in weeks. But something made Jake stop. Something about the way she sat, perfectly still, staring directly at him. Most homeless people avoided eye contact with business executives. They knew that men in expensive suits saw them as invisible, as problems to be ignored or stepped around. This woman was different. She wasn't looking at him with the desperate hope of someone begging for change. She wasn't looking at him with the defeated resignation of someone who had given up. She was looking at him with recognition. Jake felt his breath catch in his throat. The woman was holding something in her lap. A photograph. Even from 10 feet away, he could see it was old and faded, the kind of Polaroid picture that people don't take anymore. The woman's lips moved, but no sound came out. She was saying something, but Jake couldn't hear her over the noise of traffic and construction. He took a step closer, his briefcase suddenly feeling heavy in his hand. "Sir?" His driver called from beside the Bentley. "We should leave now if you want to arrive on time." Jake held up his hand without turning around. His eyes were fixed on the woman's face. There was something familiar about her features, something that made his stomach clench with an emotion he couldn't identify. The woman slowly raised the photograph, holding it out toward him. Jake could see now that it showed two children, a boy and a girl, standing in front of a rundown house. The boy looked about 12 years old, with dark hair and serious eyes. The girl was maybe 10, with a bright smile and her arm around the boy's shoulder. Jake's legs suddenly felt weak. He recognized that house. He recognized those children. The woman's mouth moved again, and this time Jake was close enough to hear her voice. It was barely a whisper, hoarse from years of hard living, but the words hit him like a physical blow. "Jake Thompson," she said, "I've been waiting for you." Jake's briefcase slipped from his fingers and hit the pavement with a loud crash. The sound echoed off the glass walls of his building, but he barely noticed. He was staring at the woman's face, seeing past the dirt and the damage, recognizing features that had haunted his dreams for 30 years. "Emma," he whispered. The woman nodded slowly. "Hello, Jake." Jake's mind reeled. Emma Rodriguez, his foster sister. The girl who had shared his nightmares and his dreams during the worst period of his life. The girl he had left behind when he escaped their foster home at age 12. The girl he had spent 3 decades trying to forget. "I don't understand," Jake stammered. "What are you doing here? How did you find me?" Emma's smile was sad and knowing. "I've always known where you were, Jake. I've been watching you build your empire, reading about your success in the newspapers. I'm proud of what you've accomplished. But why are you?" Jake gestured helplessly at her appearance, at the cardboard she was sitting on, at the obvious signs of homelessness. "Living on the streets?" Emma finished. "It's a long story. One that starts with the night you ran away and left me behind." Jake felt heat rise in his cheeks. "Emma, I was just a kid. I didn't have a choice. We all make choices, Jake. Even children." Emma's voice was gentle, but there was something underneath it that made Jake's skin crawl. "Do you remember what you promised me the night before you left?" Jake's mouth went dry. He remembered that night with crystal clarity, though he had spent years trying to bury the memory. It was the night after their foster father had beaten Emma so badly that she couldn't walk properly for a week. Jake had held her while she cried, promising that he would never leave her, that they would escape together or not at all. "I remember," he said quietly. "Do you remember what I gave you to help you run away?" Jake closed his eyes. He remembered. Emma had saved every penny from her chores and odd jobs around the neighborhood. $847, hidden in a shoebox under her bed. She had given him every cent, knowing it was enough to buy a bus ticket to anywhere he wanted to go. "The money," Jake said. $847, Emma confirmed. "My entire life savings. I gave it to you because I believed in your promise." Jake's driver honked the horn softly. "Mr. Thompson, we really need to leave now." Jake turned toward the car, then back to Emma. His meeting with Tyler Morgan was the most important business deal of his career. Hundreds of millions of dollars were at stake. His entire future depended on being in that conference room in 13 minutes. But Emma was looking at him with those same eyes that had watched him pack his few belongings into a stolen backpack 30 years ago. The same eyes that had filled with tears when he told her he was leaving that night, alone. "I have to go," Jake said. "But we can talk later. I can help you. I can get you into a program, find you somewhere to live." Emma shook her head. "I don't need your charity, Jake. I need something much more important." "What?" "I need you to remember who you used to be. Before the money, before the power, before you became the kind of man who steps over homeless people without seeing them." Emma's voice was stronger now, more urgent. I need you to remember the scared little boy who promised his sister he would never abandon her. Jake felt his chest tighten. I was 12 years old, Emma. I did what I had to do to survive. We both did what we had to do to survive, Emma replied. But only one of us kept our promises. The driver honked again, longer this time. Jake could see him gesturing toward his watch through the windshield. Tyler Morgan was probably already at the restaurant, reviewing the contracts, preparing to make Jake Thompson the richest man in Seattle. I have to go, Jake said again, but he didn't move. Emma stood up slowly, her movements stiff and painful. She was shorter than Jake remembered, and thinner than any person should be. But her eyes were the same, dark and intelligent and completely unafraid. Do you know what happened to me after you left? She asked. Jake shook his head. He had never allowed himself to wonder about Emma's fate. It was easier to assume she had been fine, that she had found her own way out of the system, that his abandonment hadn't destroyed her life. I'll tell you, Emma said. But first, you need to know something about the man you're about to do business with. Something about Tyler Morgan that might change your mind about this merger. Jake's blood turned to ice. What about Tyler Morgan? Emma smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Tyler Morgan isn't just a successful businessman, Jake. He's the reason I've been living on these streets for 3 months. He's the reason I've been waiting outside your building every single day, hoping to catch you before you made the biggest mistake of your life. I don't understand. Tyler Morgan, Emma said, holding up the old photograph again, is our foster father. The man who beat us, who terrorized us, who made our childhood a living hell. And in 15 minutes, you're going to shake his hand and give him control of everything you've built. Jake's world tilted sideways. The sounds of the city faded into background noise. The photograph in Emma's hands suddenly made perfect sense. It wasn't just a picture of 2 random foster children. It was a picture of Jake and Emma, taken in the front yard of Tyler Morgan's house 30 years ago. That's impossible, Jake whispered. Tyler Morgan is a respected businessman. He's been featured on magazine covers. He's donated millions to charity. People change their names, Jake. They reinvent themselves. They build new identities to escape their past. Emma's voice was calm and matter-of-fact. Just like you did when you ran away at 12 years old. Just like you did when you told your adoptive family that you couldn't remember anything about your life before they found you. Jake staggered backward, his mind racing. Tyler Morgan, the man he had been courting for 6 months. The man he had researched extensively, whose business practices he had studied and admired. The man he was about to trust with his life's work. How do you know all this? Jake asked. Because I never stopped looking for you, Jake. And I never stopped running from him. Emma tucked the photograph into her jacket. Tyler Morgan has been building his empire the same way he ran his foster home. Through fear, manipulation, and violence. He's destroyed dozens of businesses, hundreds of lives. And now he's set his sights on you. Jake's phone buzzed. A text from Tyler Morgan himself. Looking forward to our meeting. This partnership will be very profitable for both of us. Emma saw Jake reading the message. He knows who you are, Jake. He's known all along. This isn't a random business deal. This is revenge. He's been planning this for years, waiting for the right moment to destroy the boy who escaped his house 30 years ago. Jake's hands were shaking. Why should I believe you? Because I'm the only person who has nothing to gain from lying to you. Emma's voice was steady, but Jake could see tears forming in her eyes. I've spent 30 years paying for your freedom, Jake. I stayed in that house for 3 more years after you left. I took beatings that were meant for you. I protected other children who came after us. And when I finally escaped, I spent my entire adult life making sure that Tyler Morgan could never hurt anyone the way he hurt us. The driver was out of the car now, walking toward them. Mr. Thompson, we're going to be late. The Morgan team is already at the restaurant. Jake looked at his driver, then at Emma, then at the gleaming building behind them. His empire, his life's work, everything he had built from nothing, everything he had sacrificed for, everything he had become. Sir, the driver prompted. Jake pulled out his phone and scrolled to Tyler Morgan's number. His finger hovered over the call button. In 30 minutes, he could be a billionaire. In 30 minutes, he could have everything he had ever dreamed of. But Emma was still looking at him with those same eyes that had watched him pack his backpack 30 years ago. The same eyes that had trusted him when he promised he would never leave her behind. Jake pressed the call button. Tyler, it's Jake Thompson. I need to cancel our meeting today. Something urgent has come up. There was a pause on the other end of the line. When Tyler Morgan spoke, his voice was cold and sharp. I hope you understand the consequences of backing out of our agreement, Jake. This kind of opportunity doesn't come along twice. I understand, Jake said, his eyes never leaving Emma's face. I'll call you tomorrow to reschedule. Jake hung up and turned to his driver. Go back to the garage. I won't be needing the car today. The driver looked confused but nodded and walked back to the Bentley. Jake watched him drive away, then turned back to Emma. Okay, he said. I'm listening. Tell me everything. Emma looked around the busy street, then gestured toward a small coffee shop across the road. Not here. Too many people. Too many years. She picked up her cardboard and the small bundle of belongings beside her. There's a place we can talk privately. Jake followed her down the sidewalk, his mind still reeling from the revelation about Tyler Morgan. The woman walking beside him bore little resemblance to the bright, spirited girl he remembered from their childhood. Her movements were careful and measured, like someone who had learned to expect pain from the world. They walked for 10 minutes through the downtown streets until Emma stopped in front of an abandoned parking garage. She led him through a gap in the chain-link fence and up a concrete stairwell to the third floor. The space was dimly lit and smelled of motor oil and decay, but it was quiet and private. Emma sat down on a concrete ledge overlooking the city. Jake remained standing, his expensive suit feeling ridiculous in the grimy surroundings. This is where I've been living for the past 3 months, Emma said matter-of-factly. It's not much, but it's safe. Tyler Morgan's people don't think to look for homeless women in places like this. Tyler Morgan's people? Jake asked. Emma, what are you talking about? Emma pulled the old photograph from her jacket again and stared at it for a long moment. Do you remember the day this picture was taken? Jake studied the image. 2 children standing in front of a modest house with peeling paint and a broken porch railing. The boy looked serious and guarded. The girl was smiling, but Jake could see the wariness in her eyes even then. It was my 3rd day at the Morgan house, Jake said slowly. You had been there for 6 months already. You were the one who showed me where to hide when he got angry. I was 10 years old, Emma said. You were 12. We were both so scared, but you were brave enough to stand up to him when he went after the younger kids. Jake felt a familiar knot of guilt in his stomach. I wasn't brave. I was terrified every single day. But you still protected us. You still put yourself between Tyler and the little ones. Emma's voice was soft with memory. Do you remember what you used to say to me when I had nightmares? Jake closed his eyes. That we would get out together. That we would find a real family who would love us both. You promised me we would be brother and sister forever. That nothing would ever separate us. Emma folded the photograph carefully and put it away. I believed you, Jake. Even when the social workers moved other kids to different homes, even when the older kids aged out of the system, I believed that you and I would always be together. Emma, I was just a kid. I didn't understand how the world worked. Neither did I, but I kept my promises anyway. Emma's voice was still gentle, but there was steel underneath it. Do you want to know what happened the night you left? Jake didn't answer, but Emma continued anyway. I woke up at midnight and your bed was empty. I found the note you left on my pillow. Do you remember what it said? Jake's throat felt tight. I told you I was sorry. I told you I would come back for you when I was older. You told me you would send for me as soon as you found a safe place to live. You told me to be strong for just a little while longer. Emma's eyes were bright with unshed tears. I was 10 years old, Jake. I didn't understand that you were saying goodbye forever. I meant to come back, Jake said quietly. I really did. But the family who adopted me, they wanted me to forget my past. They said it would be easier if I started fresh. The Hendersons, Emma said. Rich family from Bellevue. No children of their own. They saw a news story about you, the brave foster child who had escaped an abusive home and was living on the streets. They thought you would make a good addition to their family. Jake stared at her. How do you know about the Hendersons? Because they didn't just want to adopt you, Jake. They wanted to adopt both of us. Emma's voice was steady, but Jake could see her hands shaking. The social workers told them about me. They said we were bonded, that we should be kept together. The Hendersons agreed. They were excited about the idea of adopting siblings. Jake felt the world tilt beneath his feet. That's not possible. They never mentioned you. Because you told them not to. Emma pulled a folded piece of paper from her pocket. It was yellowed with age and worn from handling. This is a copy of the report from your first meeting with the Hendersons. You told them you barely knew me. You said we weren't really close, that you would be happier in a home without other foster children. Jake took the paper with trembling hands. The social worker's handwriting was neat and precise. Jake Thompson expressed concern about being placed with Emma Rodriguez. He stated that while they lived in the same foster home, they were not particularly close. He feels that starting fresh with a new family would be better for his emotional development. I don't remember saying that, Jake whispered. You were 12 years old and you were scared. You thought that if you had to share the Hendersons' attention and resources, you might lose your chance at a better life. Emma's voice was understanding, but the pain in her eyes was unmistakable. I don't blame you for being scared, Jake. I blame you for being selfish. Jake sank down onto the concrete beside her. Emma, I swear I didn't know. I thought they just wanted one child. I thought you would find your own family. I did find my own family eventually. 3 more foster homes, each one worse than the last. Tyler Morgan made sure of that. Emma's voice hardened. He was furious when he found out you had run away. He took it out on me for weeks. But that wasn't the worst part. What was the worst part? The worst part was that he blamed me for helping you escape. He was convinced that I had given you money or information or somehow made it possible for you to leave. Emma laughed bitterly. He was right, of course. I had given you my life savings. But I never told him that. Jake remembered the shoebox under Emma's bed, filled with crumpled bills and loose change. She had been saving for 2 years, doing odd jobs for neighbors, selling her few possessions, skipping meals to put aside every penny she could find. I told him I didn't know anything about your escape plan, Emma continued. I told him you had acted alone. But Tyler Morgan isn't the kind of man who accepts that kind of answer. What did he do? Emma was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. He decided that if I was going to lie to him, I needed to be taught a lesson about honesty. He locked me in the basement for 3 days with no food or water. When I still wouldn't confess to helping you, he started getting creative with his punishments. Jake felt sick. Emma, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I spent 3 more years in that house, Jake. 3 years of beatings and humiliation and psychological torture. And every single day, I told myself that you were coming back for me. I told myself that you were just waiting until you were old enough to take care of me properly. I should have come back, Jake said. I should have found a way. By the time I was finally moved to a different home, I was 13 years old and completely broken. I had panic attacks, nightmares, trust issues. I couldn't form relationships with other children. I couldn't concentrate in school. I was angry all the time, but I didn't know how to express it without violence. Emma stood up and walked to the edge of the parking garage, looking out over the city. I was placed with a family in Tacoma. Nice people. They tried to help me, but I was too damaged. I started getting into fights at school. I was caught stealing food from other kids' lunches. I was arrested twice for vandalism. Emma, you were just a kid. You were traumatized. I was a kid who had been abandoned by the one person she trusted most in the world. Emma turned back to face him. When I was 15, I ran away from the Tacoma family. I lived on the streets for 6 months before the police found me and put me in a group home. That's where I met Detective Sarah Martinez. Martinez? That's your last name. Sarah was investigating reports of abuse at Tyler Morgan's foster home. She had been building a case against him for years, but she needed witnesses. Kids who had lived there and could testify about what he had done. Emma's voice grew stronger. I told her everything. Not just about Tyler, but about all the foster homes, all the abuse, all the ways the system had failed us. Jake felt a surge of hope. So Tyler was arrested? No. Emma's voice was flat. Tyler Morgan had money and connections. He had lawyers who made the witnesses disappear. Some of the kids were paid off. Others were threatened. The case fell apart. But you testified anyway? I tried to. But who's going to believe a 15-year-old runaway with a history of violence and theft? Tyler's lawyers painted me as a disturbed child who was making up stories for attention. Emma sat back down beside Jake. The case was dismissed. Tyler Morgan was never charged with anything. Jake stared at the concrete floor. So he just got away with it? He got away with it legally. But Detective Martinez didn't give up. She kept investigating, kept building cases against him. She became like a mother to me, Jake. She helped me get my GED, helped me find a job, helped me start putting my life back together. What happened to her? Emma's voice cracked. She died in a car accident 5 years ago. Single car crash on a rainy night. Very convenient timing. considering she had just uncovered evidence that Tyler Morgan was involved in a human trafficking ring. Jake felt cold. You think Tyler killed her? I know Tyler killed her. Just like I know he's killed other people who got too close to the truth about his business operations. Emma pulled out her phone and showed Jake a news article. Detective Sarah Martinez, 45, died when her car skidded off Highway 101 during a rainstorm. Police ruled it an accident. Jake read the article, his hands shaking. Emma, this is serious. If Tyler Morgan is really capable of murder, then you're in danger just by being here. I've been in danger for 30 years, Jake. That's not going to change now. Emma put her phone away. But you're in danger too, and you don't even know it. What do you mean? Emma stood up and began pacing the small space. Tyler Morgan didn't just stumble across your company by accident. He's been tracking you for years, waiting for the right moment to strike. He knows exactly who you are, Jake. He knows you're the boy who escaped his house 30 years ago. How is that possible? Because Tyler Morgan never forgets a slight, and he never forgives a betrayal. In his twisted mind, you humiliated him by running away. You proved that his control wasn't absolute. You showed the other kids that escape was possible. Emma's voice was urgent now. He's been watching your rise to success, planning his revenge. Jake thought about his interactions with Tyler Morgan over the past 6 months. The business meetings, the phone calls, the negotiations. Had there been signs? Had Tyler been playing with him the whole time? The merger isn't about business, Jake. It's about destroying everything you've built. Tyler Morgan wants to take control of your company, strip it for parts, and leave you with nothing. He wants to reduce you to the same scared, powerless child you were in his foster home. But the contracts, the due diligence, the legal teams, everything checks out. Tyler Morgan is a legitimate businessman. Emma laughed bitterly. Tyler Morgan is very good at maintaining his public image. He's donated millions to children's charities. He's been featured in business magazines. He's even received humanitarian awards from the mayor. She pulled out a tablet and showed Jake a series of newspaper articles. But if you dig deeper, if you look at the companies he's acquired over the years, you'll see a pattern. Jake studied the articles Emma showed him. Companies that had been thriving before Tyler Morgan's involvement, then mysteriously collapsed within months of the merger. CEOs who had disappeared or died in accidents. Whistleblowers who had recanted their testimony or vanished entirely. 23 companies in the last 15 years, Emma said. All of them destroyed from the inside. All of their leaders either dead, discredited, or missing. How do you know all this? Because I've been investigating Tyler Morgan for 20 years, Jake. After Detective Martinez died, I took over her work. I've been tracking his business deals, his associates, his methods. I've been building a case that even his lawyers won't be able to dismiss. Emma pulled out a thick folder from her bundle of belongings. Bank records, email correspondence, witness statements, financial documents. Everything you need to prove that Tyler Morgan is a murderer, a fraudster, and a predator. Jake opened the folder and began reading. The documents were meticulously organized and extensively detailed. Financial records showing money laundering operations. Email chains discussing the elimination of problematic witnesses. Testimony from former employees who had witnessed Tyler Morgan's violent outbursts. This is incredible, Jake breathed. This is enough to put him away for life. It's enough to put him away if we can get it to the right people. But Tyler Morgan has connections everywhere. Judges, prosecutors, police commissioners. He's been buying influence for decades. So what do we do? Emma took the folder back and held it against her chest. We use the one thing Tyler Morgan doesn't expect. We use his own arrogance against him. I don't understand. Tyler Morgan is so confident in his plan to destroy you that he's gotten careless. He's been communicating with his associates through email, leaving digital trails that can be traced. He's been meeting with people in public places, thinking he's untouchable. Emma's eyes were bright with determination. But most importantly, he's been planning to gloat. Gloat. Tyler Morgan doesn't just want to destroy you, Jake. He wants you to know that he's destroying you. He wants to see the recognition in your eyes when you realize who he really is. He wants to watch you suffer. Emma stood up and walked to the window again. That's going to be his downfall. Jake joined her at the window. What are you planning? I'm planning to give Tyler Morgan exactly what he wants. A face-to-face meeting with the boy who escaped his house 30 years ago. A chance to reveal his true identity and explain his master plan. Emma's voice was calm and controlled. And when he does, I'm going to be recording every word. Emma, that's incredibly dangerous. If Tyler Morgan is as violent as you say he is, he could kill you. He's going to try to kill me anyway, Jake. The only difference is whether I go down fighting or whether I spend the rest of my life running and hiding. Emma turned to face him. But I can't do this alone. I need your help. Jake looked at the woman standing before him. She was no longer the bright, spirited girl from his childhood memories. She was harder now, scarred by years of trauma and struggle. But there was something else in her eyes, something that reminded him of the fierce protectiveness she had shown toward the younger children in Tyler Morgan's house. What do you need me to do? Emma smiled for the first time since they had started talking. I need you to reschedule your meeting with Tyler Morgan. I need you to act like nothing has changed, like you still want to go through with the merger. And when you meet with him, I need you to ask him about his past. What kind of questions? Ask him about his experience with children. Ask him about his philanthropic work. Ask him if he's ever been involved in foster care. Emma's voice was steady. Tyler Morgan won't be able to resist the opportunity to toy with you. He'll start dropping hints about who he really is. And when he does, we'll have him. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What if he figures out that I know the truth? Then we improvise. Emma picked up her belongings and started walking toward the stairwell. But Jake, there's something else you need to know. Something about why I've been homeless for the past 3 months. What? Emma paused at the top of the stairs. I wasn't always homeless, Jake. Until 3 months ago, I had a job, an apartment, a normal life. I was working as a victim's advocate, helping other survivors of abuse navigate the legal system. What happened 3 months ago? I got too close to the truth about Tyler Morgan. I found evidence that he was planning to target you specifically. I tried to warn you, but you were unreachable. Your assistants, your security team, your lawyers, they all blocked my calls and emails. Emma's voice was thick with emotion. So I sold everything I owned, quit my job, and came here to wait for you. Jake felt the weight of her sacrifice crushing down on him. Emma, I had no idea. If I had known you were trying to reach me, you would have ignored me anyway, just like you've been ignoring homeless people your entire adult life. Emma's voice was matter of fact, but not unkind. I don't blame you for that, Jake. I blame you for forgetting who you used to be. Who I used to be. The boy who shared his food with hungry children. The boy who took beatings to protect kids who were smaller than him. The boy who promised his sister that they would always take care of each other. Emma started down the stairs. That boy would never have walked past a homeless person without seeing them. That boy would never have forgotten where he came from. Jake followed her down the stairwell, his mind racing. Emma, what if we can't stop him? What if Tyler Morgan is too powerful, too connected? Emma stopped walking and turned to face him. Then we die trying, Jake. Because the alternative is living with the knowledge that we let him win. That we let him destroy more lives, hurt more children, corrupt more systems. There has to be another way. There is another way. You can complete the merger, take your $1 billion, and pretend that none of this ever happened. You can go back to your penthouse office and your expensive cars and your comfortable life. Emma's voice was quiet but intense. But you'll know the truth. You'll know that you chose money over justice. You'll know that you chose your own comfort over the safety of innocent children. Jake stared at her, seeing not just the homeless woman from the street, but the brave 10-year-old girl who had given him her life savings so he could escape. The girl who had endured 3 years of additional abuse because she had helped him run away. The girl who had spent her entire adult life seeking justice for the children Tyler Morgan had hurt. What do you need me to do? He asked again. Emma smiled. I need you to be the brother you promised to be 30 years ago. I need you to help me finish what Detective Martinez started. I need you to help me make sure that Tyler Morgan never hurts another child. Jake nodded. Okay, I'm in. Good. Because Tyler Morgan is expecting your call. And when you call him, you need to sound like a man who's desperate to make a deal. You need to make him believe that canceling today's meeting was just a minor setback, not a change of heart. Jake pulled out his phone. What do I say? Tell him you had a family emergency, but it's resolved now. Tell him you're more eager than ever to move forward with the merger. Tell him you want to meet somewhere private where you can discuss the details without interruption. Emma's voice was calm and professional. And Jake, when you meet with him, remember that you're not just playing a role. You're fighting for every child who's ever been trapped in Tyler Morgan's house of horrors. Jake dialed Tyler Morgan's number, his hands steady for the first time in hours. As the phone rang, he looked at Emma, and saw something in her eyes that he had forgotten existed. Hope. Tyler Morgan answered on the second ring. His voice was smooth and professional, but Jake could hear something underneath it now that he knew who he was really talking to. Jake, I was disappointed when you canceled our meeting earlier. I hope everything is all right. Everything's fine now, Tyler. I apologize for the short notice. I had a family emergency that required my immediate attention. Jake kept his voice steady, professional. I'm actually more eager than ever to move forward with our partnership. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Family emergency? I wasn't aware you had any family, Jake. Your background check showed you as an only child, no living relatives. Jake felt his blood run cold. Tyler Morgan had investigated him thoroughly, just as Emma had said. It was a distant relative, someone I haven't seen in years. Ah, I see. Well, I'm glad it worked out. Tyler's voice carried a hint of amusement. I have to admit, Jake, I was concerned that you might be having second thoughts about our deal. Not at all. If anything, today's events reminded me how important it is to secure my legacy. I want to make sure Thompson Industries continues to thrive long after I'm gone. Excellent. I feel the same way about my own business empire. Legacy is everything, don't you think? The mark we leave on the world, the impact we have on future generations. Jake caught Emma's eye. She was listening intently, taking notes on a small pad of paper. Absolutely. I'd love to discuss this further. Perhaps we could meet somewhere more private than a restaurant? I have some ideas about the merger that I prefer to discuss away from prying eyes. I like the way you think, Jake. Privacy is so important in delicate negotiations. Tyler's voice was warm now, almost fatherly. I have a private office in the old Morrison building downtown. Top floor, very discreet. Would 8 o'clock tonight work for you? Jake looked at Emma, who nodded. That sounds perfect. I'll see you then. Oh, and Jake, come alone. I find that lawyers and assistants can sometimes complicate these personal discussions. Of course, just the two of us. Jake hung up and turned to Emma. He wants to meet tonight. Top floor of the Morrison building. Perfect. That building has been empty for months. Tyler probably chose it because he thinks it's isolated, secure. He has no idea that I've been watching him use it for meetings with his associates. Emma pulled out a small device that looked like a smartphone. This is a professional recording device. It can capture audio from up to 50 feet away, and it's completely undetectable. Where did you get that? Detective Martinez left me more than just case files when she died. She left me contacts, resources, equipment, people who believe in justice even when the system fails. Emma showed Jake how to operate the device. You'll wear this in your jacket pocket. It will record everything Tyler says. Jake took the device and examined it. It was smaller than he had expected, barely larger than a credit card. What if he searches me? He won't. Tyler Morgan is arrogant, but he's not stupid. If he searches you, it means he suspects something, and if he suspects something, he'll just kill you outright. Emma's voice was matter-of-fact. Your best protection is acting like the greedy businessman he expects you to be. Jake felt a chill. Emma, what if this goes wrong? What if Tyler figures out what we're doing? Then we both die? But at least we die fighting. Emma picked up her bundle of belongings. But it won't go wrong, Jake. Because Tyler Morgan's ego is his weakness. He's been planning this revenge for 30 years, and he won't be able to resist the opportunity to gloat. They left the parking garage and walked back toward downtown Seattle. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the city streets. Jake found himself looking at the homeless people they passed with new eyes, wondering how many of them had stories like Emma's, how many of them had been failed by the systems that were supposed to protect them. Emma, Jake said as they walked, what happens after tonight? If we get the recording, if we expose Tyler Morgan, what happens to you? I don't know. I've been focused on this moment for so long that I haven't thought much about what comes after. Emma was quiet for a moment. I suppose I'll try to rebuild my life. Find a job, get an apartment, maybe go back to school. You could work for me. At Thompson Industries. I could create a position for you. Something that uses your investigative skills. Emma looked at him with surprise. You do that? It's the least I can do. You've spent 30 years paying for my freedom. It's time I started paying you back. I don't want your charity, Jake. It's not charity. It's justice. And it's family. Jake stopped walking and turned to face her. Emma, I know I can't undo the past. I can't give you back your childhood or take away the pain you've endured. But I can try to be the brother I should have been 30 years ago. Emma's eyes filled with tears. I've dreamed of hearing you say that for so long. But Jake, we might not survive tonight. Tyler Morgan is dangerous, and he's desperate. If he realizes we're onto him, then we face it together, like we should have done 30 years ago. Emma nodded and wiped her eyes. Okay, but first, we need to prepare. Tyler Morgan knows you as a successful businessman, but he doesn't know you as the scared foster child who lived in his house. We need to make sure you can handle seeing him face to face. What do you mean? I mean that when you look at Tyler Morgan tonight, you're going to see the man who terrorized your childhood. You're going to remember the beatings, the fear, the helplessness. And you can't let those emotions show. Emma's voice was intense. Tyler Morgan feeds on fear. If he sees that you're afraid of him, he'll know something is wrong. Jake nodded. I understand. Do you? Because 30 years ago, you were so scared of Tyler Morgan that you ran away in the middle of the night. You were so traumatized by your time in his house that you blocked out most of your memories. Tonight, you have to face him as an equal. Jake thought about the 12-year-old boy who had packed his belongings into a stolen backpack and snuck out of Tyler Morgan's house. That boy had been terrified, desperate, willing to do anything to escape. But that boy had also been brave enough to run toward an uncertain future rather than accept a life of abuse. I can do this, Jake said. I know you can. But remember, you're not just doing this for yourself. You're doing this for every child who's ever been trapped in Tyler Morgan's web. You're doing this for Detective Martinez, who died trying to bring him to justice. You're doing this for me. They spent the next 2 hours preparing. Emma briefed Jake on Tyler Morgan's psychological profile, his methods of manipulation, his likely responses to different conversational gambits. She showed him photographs of Tyler's known associates, explained his business operations, and outlined his probable plan for destroying Thompson Industries. The key is to let Tyler control the conversation, Emma explained. He'll want to reveal his identity dramatically. He'll want to see the shock and fear in your eyes when you realize who he is. Give him that moment, but don't let him see that you already know. How do I fake being surprised? You don't fake it. You remember what it felt like to be 12 years old and powerless in his house. You remember what it felt like to be so scared that you couldn't sleep at night. That fear is still inside you, Jake. Use it. As 8 o'clock approached, Jake and Emma made their way to the Morrison building. It was a 30-story office tower that had been abandoned for over a year, its windows dark and its lobby empty. Emma led Jake to a service entrance on the side of the building. I've been watching this building for weeks, she explained as she picked the lock. Tyler uses it for meetings that he doesn't want traced back to him. The elevators still work, but the security system has been disabled. They rode the elevator to the 29th floor in silence. Emma checked her equipment one more time, then looked at Jake seriously. Once you walk into that room, you're on your own. I'll be monitoring from the stairwell, but I can't help you if things go wrong. You have to trust your instincts. Jake nodded. What if Tyler doesn't confess? What if he's more careful than we expect? Then we'll find another way. But Jake, Tyler Morgan has been planning this moment for 30 years. He's not going to be able to resist the opportunity to tell you exactly how he's going to destroy you. Emma handed Jake a small earpiece. I'll be able to hear everything through this. If you get into trouble, if you need to abort, just say the word family, and I'll create a distraction. Jake put the earpiece in and adjusted his jacket to conceal the recording device. Emma, if something happens to me tonight, nothing is going to happen to you. But if it does, I want you to know that I'm sorry. I'm sorry for leaving you behind. I'm sorry for forgetting about you. I'm sorry for not being the brother you deserved. Emma reached up and adjusted Jake's tie, a gesture that reminded him of the way she used to straighten his clothes before they went downstairs to face Tyler Morgan's morning inspections. You're being the brother I need you to be right now, she said. That's what matters. Jake walked down the hallway toward the corner office where Tyler Morgan was waiting. His heart was pounding, but his steps were steady. He knocked on the door and heard Tyler's voice calling him inside. The office was spacious and dimly lit, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Tyler Morgan stood with his back to the door, looking out at the Seattle skyline. He was taller than Jake remembered, but his posture was the same, rigid, authoritative, intimidating. Jake, thank you for coming. I apologize for the unconventional meeting place, but I find that privacy is essential for discussions of this magnitude. Tyler turned around, and Jake felt his breath catch in his throat. The man standing before him was older, grayer, more distinguished than the Tyler Morgan he remembered from childhood. But the eyes were the same, cold, calculating, cruel. Please sit down. We have much to discuss. Jake sat in the leather chair across from Tyler's desk, fighting to keep his expression neutral. Tyler poured 2 glasses of whiskey from a crystal decanter and offered one to Jake. A toast, Tyler said, raising his glass. To new partnerships and old acquaintances. Jake raised his glass, noting the strange emphasis Tyler had placed on the word old. To successful ventures. They drank, and Tyler settled back in his chair, studying Jake with obvious satisfaction. You know, Jake, I've been following your career with great interest. Your rise from foster child to tech mogul is quite impressive. Very inspirational. Thank you. I've been fortunate to have good opportunities. Fortunate, yes, but also resourceful. It takes a special kind of person to escape their circumstances and build something meaningful from nothing. Tyler's voice carried a hint of amusement. Tell me, do you ever think about your childhood? Your time in the foster care system? Jake felt the recording device in his pocket and chose his words carefully. Sometimes. It was a difficult period, but it taught me resilience. Resilience. Yes, that's a good word for it. Tyler leaned forward. Do you remember much about the families who took you in? The people who shaped your early years? Some memories are clearer than others. I try not to dwell on the past. That's wise. The past can be quite painful, can't it? Tyler's smile was cold. But sometimes the past has a way of catching up with us, no matter how far we run. Jake felt a chill. What do you mean? I mean that our histories have a way of influencing our futures, whether we realize it or not. The people we meet, the relationships we form, the opportunities that come our way, it's all connected. Tyler stood up and walked to the window. For instance, this merger between our companies. Some might call it a coincidence that we found each other, but I prefer to think of it as fate. Fate. Yes, Jake, fate. Because you see, we've met before. A long time ago, under very different circumstances. Jake's heart pounded, but he kept his voice steady. I don't understand. Tyler turned back to face him, and Jake saw something predatory in his expression. Don't you? Think back, Jake. Think about a house in Tacoma, circa 1995. Think about a man who took in foster children, who tried to give them structure and discipline. Think about a boy who was ungrateful for the care he received, who ran away in the middle of the night like a thief. Jake felt his mouth go dry. Tyler Morgan. I'm the man who gave you a roof over your head when no one else would. I'm the man who fed you, clothed you, tried to teach you responsibility and respect. And I'm the man you betrayed when you decided that my generosity wasn't enough for you. Jake stared at Tyler, letting the shock and recognition show on his face. You were our foster father. I was your foster father. And you repaid my kindness by stealing money from another child and running away like a coward. Tyler's voice was getting louder, more intense. Do you have any idea what that did to my reputation? Do you know how it looked when the authorities found out that one of my boys had run away? I was just a kid. I was scared. You were selfish. You were thinking only about yourself, not about the impact your actions would have on others. Tyler began pacing behind his desk. Do you know what happened to the other children after you left? Do you know how your little stun affected them? Jake thought about Emma, about the 3 additional years of abuse she had endured because of his escape. I didn't mean for anyone else to get hurt. But they did get hurt, Jake. They got hurt because of your selfishness, your cowardice, your complete lack of consideration for anyone but yourself. Tyler's voice was filled with venom. And now, 30 years later, you're going to pay for what you did. What are you talking about? Tyler laughed, a sound that made Jake's skin crawl. I'm talking about justice, Jake. I'm talking about making sure that you lose everything you've built, just like you made me lose everything I had worked for. Your foster home was shut down because you were abusing children, not because I ran away. My foster home was shut down because ungrateful children like you spread lies about me. Because the system believed the word of damaged, disturbed kids over the word of a man who was trying to help them. Tyler's face was red with anger. But I've spent 30 years building a new life, a new reputation. And now I'm going to use that reputation to destroy you. Jake felt Emma's voice in his earpiece. Keep him talking. He's confessing to everything. How are you going to destroy me? By taking control of your company, stripping it for parts, and leaving you with nothing. By making sure that every business deal you try to make falls through, every investor you approach turns away, every opportunity you pursue disappears. Tyler's voice was calm again, but filled with malice. I'm going to reduce you to the same powerless, desperate child you were when you lived in my house. The merger contracts. Give me complete control over Thompson Industries within 6 months. Your board of directors will vote you out, your employees will be laid off, your intellectual property will be sold to my competitors, and you'll be left with nothing but debt and lawsuits. Jake felt sick. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know who's destroying you. I want you to understand that this isn't random business misfortune. This is personal. This is payback for the humiliation you caused me 30 years ago. Tyler walked around his desk and stood directly in front of Jake. I want you to spend your final moments as a successful businessman knowing that you're about to lose everything to the man you ran away from as a child. Jake looked up at Tyler Morgan and saw not just his childhood abuser, but a man who had spent decades perfecting his ability to cause pain. You're insane. I'm thorough. Do you know how long I've been planning this? How many years I've spent tracking your career, waiting for the right moment to strike? Tyler's voice was filled with satisfaction. I've been monitoring your business deals, your financial situation, your personal relationships. I know everything about you, Jake, including the fact that you have no family, no close friends, no one who will miss you when you're gone. What do you mean, when I'm gone? I mean that destroying your business isn't enough. I want to destroy you personally. I want to make sure that you suffer the way you made me suffer. Tyler reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a gun. I want to make sure that you never get the chance to hurt anyone else the way you hurt me. Jake felt Emma's voice in his earpiece. Stay calm. Keep recording. Tyler, you don't have to do this. I was just a kid. I didn't understand what I was doing. You understood enough to steal money from Emma Rodriguez. You understood enough to leave her behind to face my punishment alone. Tyler's voice was getting louder again. Do you know what I did to that little girl after you left? Do you know how I made her pay for your cowardice? Jake felt rage building in his chest. You beat her. You tortured her. You destroyed her childhood because you were angry at me. I taught her about consequences. I taught her that actions have repercussions. Lessons that you never learned. Tyler pointed the gun at Jake. But you're going to learn them now. Jake heard Emma's voice in his earpiece. That's enough. We have everything we need. Before Tyler could react, the office door burst open. Emma entered with 2 police officers, all of them armed. Seattle Police. Drop your weapon. Tyler spun around, his face twisted with shock and rage. What is this? This is justice, Tyler Morgan, Emma said, stepping into the light. Or should I say, justice for Thomas Morrison, which is your real name. Tyler's face went white. Emma Rodriguez. I should have known. You should have known a lot of things. You should have known that Detective Martinez's investigation didn't die with her. You should have known that your victims wouldn't stay silent forever. And you should have known that you can't run from your past forever. One of the police officers moved closer to Tyler. Sir, drop your weapon and put your hands behind your head. Tyler looked at Jake, then at Emma, then at the police officers. His expression was a mixture of rage and desperation. This is all fabricated. Jake Thompson and this woman are trying to extort me. We have recordings of everything you just said, Emma replied. We have evidence of your crimes going back 30 years. We have testimony from dozens of your victims. It's over, Tyler. Tyler's hand was shaking as he held the gun. You ruined my life. Both of you. You destroyed everything I built. You destroyed yourself, Jake said, standing up. You destroyed yourself the moment you decided that hurting children was acceptable. Tyler looked at Jake with pure hatred. I gave you a home. I gave you structure. I tried to make you into a man. You gave us nightmares. You gave us trauma. You gave us scars that will never heal. Jake's voice was steady, strong. But you also gave us something you never intended to give us. You gave us the strength to survive you. Tyler raised the gun toward Jake, but before he could fire, one of the police officers tackled him to the ground. The gun went off, the bullet shattering the window behind Jake's head. Tyler Morgan, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, extortion, fraud, and multiple counts of child abuse, the officer said as he handcuffed Tyler. You have the right to remain silent. Tyler looked up at Emma as the officer read him his rights. This isn't over. I have lawyers, connections, influence. I'll be out of prison before you know it. No, you won't, Emma said quietly. Because this time, you don't just have to fight the testimony of damaged foster children. You have to fight the testimony of Jake Thompson, one of the most successful businessmen in Seattle. You have to fight recorded confessions of murder and extortion. You have to fight 30 years of documented evidence. The police officers led Tyler Morgan away, but he turned back one more time. Jake, you'll never be free of me. I'll always be in your head, always be part of your nightmares. Jake looked at the man who had terrorized his childhood and felt something he hadn't expected to feel. Pity. No, Tyler, you won't be, because I'm not that scared 12-year-old boy anymore. I'm not running away this time. I'm standing and fighting, and I'm not fighting alone. After the police left, Jake and Emma stood in the empty office, looking out at the city lights. It's really over, Emma said. It's really over, Jake agreed. Emma pulled out her phone and showed Jake a news alert. Thompson Industries stock is up 12% after rumors of the failed merger. Your board of directors is calling it a brilliant strategic move. Jake laughed. They have no idea how close they came to losing everything. Maybe it's better that way. Jake turned to Emma. What happens now? Now we rebuild. You rebuild your company without Tyler Morgan's influence. I rebuild my life without his shadow hanging over it. We both move forward. Together? Emma smiled. Together. Jake looked out at the city below, thinking about all the people down there who were struggling, who were forgotten, who were invisible to men like the one he had almost become. Emma, I want to do something. Something to help people like us, people who've been failed by the system. What do you have in mind? I want to hire people who've been overlooked. Foster kids, homeless people, ex-convicts, anyone who's been written off by society. I want to give them the same chance that I got 30 years ago. Emma's eyes lit up. That's a beautiful idea. I want you to run it. I want you to be my partner in this, not just my employee. Jake, that's incredibly generous, but it's not generous. It's justice. You saved my life when we were kids, and you saved it again tonight. It's time I started giving back. Emma nodded. Okay, but I have one condition. What's that? We start with the people who are living in that parking garage where I was staying. The ones who are invisible to everyone else. We make sure they know that someone sees them, someone cares about them, someone believes they deserve better. Jake extended his hand to Emma. Partners. Emma shook his hand. Partners. As they left the Morrison building and walked out into the Seattle night, Jake felt something he hadn't experienced in 30 years. He felt like he was finally home. Not because of the city around him or the success he had achieved, but because he was walking beside the person who had always been his real family. The scared 12-year-old boy who had run away in the middle of the night was finally ready to stop running. And the brave 10-year-old girl who had given him her life savings was finally ready to stop waiting for him to come back. They were together again, and this time, nothing would separate them.